and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction show time after Liverpool have just taken away 1 point from the Etihad Stadium after a draw that had plenty of drama and some good moments and bad moments as well, I think it's fair to say. I think on the balance of things, the first thing you've got to say is a draw away from home against probably the best team in the Premier League other than Liverpool, if you want to argue that we're the best team in the league at the moment, and that gold patch on our sleeves in every single game seems to suggest that that is the case. It is probably about as good a draw as you're ever going to get in the league. You know, if you've seen this channel for a while, you know me, I'm always an optimist, and I want to win pretty much every single game. That's why last season was kind of a dream come true, because Liverpool kind of adopted that philosophy as well and said anything other than 3 points, regardless of opposition and situation, is simply not good enough. But the fact of the matter is, under the current circumstances, with the season we're playing now, the way it's all panning out, the fixture congestion, the injury crises, and the fact that we are playing Manchester City in their own backyard, a place where we tend to not have got the best results in recent memory. Of course, we've lost our last 3 league games there, and before that we drew one. You have to go back 5 years for the last time we won a league game at the Etihad. So, under the circumstances, a point is about as, like I said, as good a draw as you're going to get. And what it does crucially do is it keeps Man City not necessarily at arm's length, but it does give us the advantage in terms of points. Even if they do win their game in hand, they will now be 2 points behind Liverpool. I do believe it means we don't quite hit the top of the Premier League table, although I haven't checked. I know Leicester and Spurs won today, which puts them in very good positions, although there's a chance that maybe they're level on points and just ahead of Liverpool on goal difference. But either way, I don't think we've lost any massive ground today, and we've certainly done ourselves a reasonable bit of credit with the performance on the pitch. I certainly thought in the first half hour, Liverpool were absolutely excellent. The way we went at Man City, I was actually quite frustrated as it reached about the 10-minute mark. I was thinking we should have been about 2 goals up by that point. The way we just relentlessly attacked, the speed of the passing as well. It felt like the system was just working absolutely perfectly, and that's hugely important given how the last time we played that 4-2-3-1 against Sheffield United with those players in place, it looked a bit turgid, especially for the first half of the game, and it's something that Jurgen Klopp acknowledged in his press conference, or at least his pre-match interview before the game today at the Etihad, that when we played that system against Sheffield United, he was happy with it in the second half when things started to click. But it did certainly feel like today was a step up in terms of how we use that formation and how every player understands their role within it. I thought in those early stages, the way we attacked was just so fluid. There was definitely more of a link up between the midfield and the attack. It didn't look like a bank of midfielders and then a bank of forwards. It felt like every 5 yards there was another phase, there was another stage of the attack, and that allowed us to move the ball up the field so quickly because we didn't have to launch the ball forward, we didn't have to go over the top, we didn't have to have players trying to beat men by dribbling past them or anything like that. We could just very quickly and very fluidly, I know I'm using that word a lot, but it perfectly describes the way Liverpool played in the opening stages, just move through the gears and move through that Man City team and move through their defence like it wasn't even there. And like I said, what was most annoying is that we didn't get more goals in that stage. You know, I know we went off the boil in the second half, and you can maybe argue that that was where Liverpool needed to improve and where we should have tried to get some goals that would have given us an even better result than the point that we took away. But if you're asking me, I think we should have gone further up in those early stages, and it's just the fact of the matter is that when the ball finally got into the box, sometimes the decisions weren't perfect. I know you're obviously probably going to want me to talk about Roberto Firmino because he's very much not the man of the moment, but the man that everyone wants to talk about at the moment because of exactly whether or not he fits into the current Liverpool setup, given A, his form, and B, the way Diogo Jota has shaken up the way we're playing at the moment. I felt today, the way we played, he didn't cause too many problems. It wasn't like he was a square peg in a round hole. We've seen him do well in that number 10 role before, and I don't necessarily think today was any different. But he does still look like a bloke who's out of form. When he received the ball in crucial areas, he was not quite as sharp as usual. You know, he was falling over the ball. His touch wasn't great. And he was making the wrong decisions as well. You know, there's a moment, I think it was inside the first 60 seconds, where he takes the ball. Ederson comes out of goal. And what Bobby Firmino does try and do is go wide, get the ball around Ederson, and then presumably his next move is to get a cross in. Unfortunately, Ederson blocks it. I think what he really needs to do is play the cross early because Ederson had already come out. The space had been vacated, and Salah and Mane were both waiting in the middle in the 18-yard box, albeit with defenders around, but you'd back Roberto Firmino, a player of his quality, regardless of the form he's in, to find the right pass. So I felt like he made the wrong decision there, and it just felt every single time it was down to him to make a crucial call, it didn't quite fall for him. And listen, I don't want to criticise him too much because, as I said, He's a great, great player for Liverpool. You don't need to trawl through plenty of videos in the past on this channel to know that I like Roberto Firmino. And I do think he's so important, and it definitely changed the way we played when he went off. I thought he caused a few problems when he was on because the one extra attacker meant that at times we were a little bit overcommitted going forward. I think if there was one thing we were missing, it was a late runner from midfield in that first half hour of the game. Once we did start to pile forward and have these counter-attacks that put City's defence on the back foot, what you ended up with was 4 attackers all going for the same kind of areas, all following the line of Man City's back line. And what you instead need is just one extra player who bursts in a little bit late in that space in between their midfield that's obviously tracking back and their defence that is then set up on somewhere between the 12-yard penalty box spot and the 6-yard box line. That was where all of their defenders were, and it's where all of our attackers were trying to occupy as well. There was space there to be used, but because of the formation and the fact that Henderson and Wijnaldum are part of a 2-man midfield rather than a 3-man midfield, I don't think either of them really wanted to overcommit by bursting forward into the box at any stage, especially when you have still got 4 world-class attackers in that position. But it just felt at times there were too many players trying to do too many similar things, and sometimes that wasn't the case. Sometimes they were very, very fluid, as I said, and when it worked, it was absolutely fantastic. And I can see Jurgen Klopp trying to use this formation more going forward, because if he can just iron out the creases, then it will be absolutely superb. And maybe on another day, if they've used it a few more times and they're a little bit more in tune with each other, then we do get a couple more goals in those opening stages and we come away with 3 points. But as it stands, Liverpool, of course, only get the 1 goal. It comes from great work from Sadio Mane. It felt like he had the beating of Kyle Walker all afternoon, really. I think that was one benefit we did have from the extra forward, was it meant that with Jota and Firmino both in the middle, although obviously players were moving around, it was very, very free roam all the time. But Mane tended to stick to that left-hand side and to start off quite wide and try and sort of drive into the middle with the ball rather than picking it up in narrow spaces when he actually receives it. And I think what happens is, with Jota and Firmino occupying the centre-halves, they can't afford to step out and help out Kyle Walker with the winger, which is something that you maybe see in other games because of how advanced Sadio Mane and Mo Salah are. Centre-backs and full-backs will sometimes double up on them, and occasionally a midfielder will get involved as well. But what ended up happening was that Kyle Walker was very isolated against Sadio Mane, and Mane exploited that very well. And maybe the one disappointing thing is that he didn't do it as often as the game wore on, although the game becomes a very different game after the equaliser and certainly as we go into the second half. But it's great work from him to win the penalty. He's going very direct, has the beating of Kyle Walker, and I think if Kyle Walker doesn't foul him, Sadio Mane at least creates or takes a clear goal scoring chance there, because Man City's defence was just so back-footed in those early stages. And of course Salah absolutely slams the penalty away. I think he does very well with where he positions himself with the run-up, and it's something that I don't think we talk about enough with Mo Salah, is how good he is at getting in goalkeepers' heads, because he doesn't always hit the corners. He's not like James Milner, who buries them into the side netting every time. He often kind of hits it into the back part of the net, where you think if a goalie goes the right way and guesses correctly, then he probably saves it. But it rarely happens, and what Mo Salah does is he starts central, which from that position would make it very difficult for him to put it anywhere near the corner that he eventually aims for. And as a result, I think Ederson is already planning to go the other way, or at least stay in the middle, because we've seen plenty of Mo Salah penalties go maybe not straight down the middle, but somewhere near it recently, especially this season. And I think as a result, Ederson kind of stays and reacts at the last minute. So even though Salah's penalty isn't right into the side netting or anything like that, it's not perfectly placed, if you want to call it that, because he's got the power behind it and because the goalie's kind of expecting it to go down the middle and is trying to react late, it still ends up going in the back of the net. And that's not a corner Salah goes for often. He tends not to go to his left. And that's one thing that you can credit him with on penalties, is he varies it up so much that you always feel like he's got one up on the goalkeeper, because he knows where he's going, and it's almost impossible for the goalkeeper to guess. And that's why he's got such a good record, and that's why he's taken on duties over James Milner as well. Even when James Milner is on the pitch now, Mo Salah is taking the penalties, and that's a great thing to see, because you want someone, A, to be your number one penalty taker, B, to be really good at them, and C, to be on the pitch at all times, especially in massive games like this. So it was great to go 1-0 up, and as I said, if I have one qualm, it's that Liverpool didn't make more of that. And then of course City get back into the game, and listen, a team as good as them, that can happen. I don't want to be accused of being complacent and just allowing the team to make mistakes or anything like that, but Man City are very, very good, and at times they're just going to do you. And that's what Gabriel Jesus does there. You can argue all you want about whether or not he means the turn. And if you ask me, I'm not entirely sure he does. I think the way he reacts, it takes a moment between when the ball comes off his boot and when he actually makes the turn, leaves Trent Alexander-Arnold for dead and gets the shot in. But there's such fine margins. You know, when he reaches that ball, it's a toe poke to get it past. Joel Matip nearly gets there. Alisson nearly gets there and smothers the ball. These are the fine margins we're operating in. And that's why coming away with a point under these circumstances, when we've seen Liverpool get done by fine margins and lose at the Etihad just a couple of years ago, is, on the balance of things, a pretty good result. And like I said, things fizzle out a little bit in the second half, I think it's fair to say. I know I said that maybe we didn't quite look as good when Bobby Firmino comes off, although I, like everyone else, was saying that he needed to come off simply because of that issue of him kind of smothering other players and not making the right calls. I wanted to see Shaqiri come on as well, and you could maybe criticise him for not stamping his authority on the game, but once he comes on, it's a very different game to what it is at the start. If Shaqiri played from minute one, then maybe he gets plenty more opportunities and gets a goal or an assist or whatever, but by the time he comes on, both teams are kind of settled for a point a little bit, I think it's fair to say. Man City kind of acknowledged that when they did try and go gung-ho in the early stages and play it like a basketball match, Liverpool actually kind of had the upper hand. We were the ones getting all the chances, getting in behind their defences, causing all sorts of problems. And it's testament to Jurgen Klopp being brave with his team selection that's what happened. You know, if Man City try and make it a basketball game in the early stages and we don't have that extra attacker on the pitch and we play a little bit more conservative, then all the game's probably being played in our half. They're playing with the ball all the time and they're probably the ones that get all the chances. So I don't think Jurgen Klopp really got anything wrong today, and I think the team were right to take the point in the second half as well. You can criticise all you want and say we should have gone for 3 points, we should always be looking to win matches, and it's not like we didn't try. We had opportunities there, but it certainly seemed like both teams settled down a little bit. And it's worth remembering as well, with the time that the games arrived, it's right before an international break when both Liverpool and Man City have been playing weekend Premier League games and midweek Champions League games the entire way through this block of fixtures. And before that was an international break where both of these teams are packed with internationals. It's not like any of the lads on either side would have got a rest in that break as well. So it's no surprise that they were flagging a little bit at the end, and it's no surprise that both teams get to about 15 minutes to go and kind of shake hands and go, you know what, this isn't a bad result for either of us. Man City are still within touching distance. Liverpool have not put any more distance between us and them, but what we have done is maintained our own advantage. We've still got the impetus. It's up to us to maintain the lead now. We've still got, even if they win their game in hand, a 2-point lead over them, and that means the pressure's on Man City. They've got to keep winning and keep getting results to keep up with us. We've got to keep winning just to maintain that gap, and I'm sure that Liverpool will. We've got, of course, got some very big fixtures coming up after the international break. We've got a home game against Leicester straight afterwards, which, given their form and the position they're in at the table and the fact that they really ground out a win against a very, very good Wolves side today, means that's probably going to be a massive, massive game as well, and a huge test of both teams' title ambitions. It sounds ridiculous to say about Leicester because we kind of poo-pooed it last season, the idea that they were in for the title, and obviously it kind of happened that they fell away. But at this early stage in this kind of season, anything can happen. Mad stuff happens, and I think both teams were aware of that today on the pitch at the Etihad. They were aware that mad things can happen and games can get away from you so quickly, and it very nearly did for Liverpool. Right after City equalised, Kevin De Bruyne has that shot that fizzes past the post. They have the penalty as well, and a quick word on that. I don't think it's a pen. I think it's quite ridiculous. I mean, I know they're kind of talking about how Leicester got a contentious one earlier on in the day and you've got to see consistency. But at the end of the day, Joe Gomez can't keep his arms by his side when he jumps up for the sake of balance, and he's pulling it away as well. I know when the ball strikes him, it's up there, but he's trying to get it out the way, and it's not like it's miles away from his body. It's still close. So yes, if his arm's not there, the ball gets past him, it goes into the box. City maybe have a chance, but do they deserve a free hit from 12 yards out for that kind of foul? I don't think anyone can argue for that, and I'd like to think that City fans would think the same, but you know, bias gets the better of us all, and you can maybe accuse me of bias for thinking that it's not a handball from Joe Gomez, and under the rules at the moment, maybe it is, but I don't think the rules should be the way they are. So it's annoying that we did concede the penalty, and thankfully Kevin De Bruyne puts it wide, and as a result, Liverpool come away with what is a very, very credible point. I want you to let me know what you think about the draw down below, whether you think Liverpool should have gone for it even more, whether we should have got goals early on in the game, whether we should have pushed for a winner later on, or whether you think the right thing to do was to be a little bit more cautious, a bit more careful, especially given the injury to Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. I think that plays a part in those closing stages when you've then got Milner at right back. He does very, very well defensively. You know, Sterling tries to get past him a few times and gets absolutely no change out of him, and I think that's because Milner prioritises defensive work. You know, at his age, his athleticism isn't quite what it used to be. He can't bomb up and down the pitch like a young player like Trent Alexander-Arnold can, so he prioritised defending and making sure that Sterling didn't get any change out of him, and he did that very well, and that's another reason why the game slowed down. But I do want you to let me know what your thoughts on the game were down in the comments below. Apart from that, that is all for today's video, so thank you guys very, very much as always for watching. If you did enjoy the video, you know what to do by now. Hit the like button down there, hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos I've put out on the channel in the past. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon after the international break is over. Until then, bye for now.